Hello and Happy New Year! It's 2023, January 1st to be exact. We're here. We did it. Another time around the sun, as they say. My name is Kurt, and this is my daily Good Life meditation video. This is something that I do each and every morning shortly after waking up to remember my life objectives and principles and to see how I did applying these to the challenges and opportunities of the last 24 hours. I also use this time to plan for the coming day. First, last night and yesterday. The day was pretty much spent in house cleaning and taking care of things to make sure that our little home is ready for the new year. It's a tradition in Japan to keep the house nice and tidy, but in particular to do a deep cleaning just at the end of the year, whereas we in the West tend to do our spring cleaning as we open the house up. So Yumiko and I, we basically did everything spick and span, top to bottom, and then we went out, did our shopping, and made sure that the house is well stocked up and provisioned for the start of the year, and it is. We did also have some leisure time. We had a nice dinner with our daughter, having soba noodles at our favorite soba noodle shop, Tanakaya in Tustin. That was good. And then we had ice cream afterwards. That was interesting. And I came home and I was in bed by 9 p.m. So the New Year just kind of slipped in my sleep. I got this new cup as well for my daughter. Isn't that nice? It describes how much I like coffee. That much. All right. Now the Good Life meditation is something that I do, like I said, every morning. And I try to do it in earnest, which means that I think about each objective and principle. Sometimes I do it quickly. I have that leisure as long as I do it. I don't even have to do it on camera. I can just do it in my mind if I want to. Although I rarely take that option anymore. I usually at least turn the camera on and recite the items one by one. So let's begin. And good morning, Parker. First, my 7 objectives. These are, number 1, to be always ready to die, to have my life affairs and my relationships and my life's work in order, and if not complete, at least settled enough so that if I were to wink out today, I've left things in as good a shape as I can be. It's like keeping a nice, tidy desk at all times, and to make sure that if you die, that your family can find your stuff. Number 2 is to make good and effective use of my time, to not do things that just waste the day or spend the time, but to try to capitalize on these moments, these opportunities, to really make life better. Number 3 is to develop and maintain good and sound life objectives and principles. That's these 7 and 33 that I'm talking about now. And this is what I do to do that. I think about them, I talk about them, I handle each one, and I look at them from different angles. I try to avoid getting into the rut of saying the same thing every morning, although it's a little hard sometimes to come up with new ways to describe objectives and principles that are so familiar and we dwell on every day. Number 4 is to cultivate good emotional reactions, to become someone who doesn't easily fly off the handle or become upset. And I would say that 2022 was a big year for that. I really did come a long ways in terms of maturity and self-control in the last year. That was probably the centerpiece area of improvement. It'd be interesting to be able to develop some metrics for these things, huh? Number 5 is to perform good actions, just to do good things every day throughout the day to help improve the well-being of myself and others. Number 6 is to recognize my true limits and my true opportunities so that I can stay within the bounds of what's possible and recognize where things are that are further than I can reach. Now my 33 principles. Number 1 is the principle of war, to always be fighting against things that I think are true, propositions of truth, particularly those that are new and that others want me to onboard into my system. Yumiko and I were stopped by 2 Mormon missionaries the other day. They stopped on their bicycles and they asked us as we were walking our dogs. They asked me if I wanted a little picture of Jesus. Curious. I said, yeah. So they rummaged in their little thing and pulled out, indeed, a small picture of Jesus. They then asked me if I came to church, and I said no. And they asked me why, and I said, I don't believe in God. And they said, are you interested in family legacy? I said, no, I'm not. And then they said, thank you, and left. I wouldn't call that necessarily a war so much, but I was being very forthright in what I was and what I am and am not interested in. I was a little disappointed, I think, that they gave up so easily. But it was late evening and the drizzle was coming out of the sky and they probably wanted to get home. Number 2 is to Number 2 is the principle of reason, which has 3 sub-principles: honesty, objectivity, doubt. Did I say 3? I meant 4. And humiliation. I attempt to approach the world in a reasonable fashion by being honest with myself and others, objective in my worldview, looking at things as clearly as I can, taking the perspective and frame of mind of a skeptic, that would be doubt, and then be prepared and to welcome the humiliation that might come of discovering that I'm wrong. Number 3 is the homunculus. I don't think I have a soul, or that any of us does. I think the idea of a soul is a made-up idea, made up by those who want to have some conduit to eternity, who wish to escape death, or at least the permanence of death, the oblivion that awaits after death has arrived. The next objective, which goes with the homunculus, is the anchor hold. I believe that though I don't have a soul, I do have a consciousness, and that consciousness is trapped within my body, namely within my nervous system, supported by the rest of my biology. That's it. That's the sum of those 2 principles together. No soul, but I do have a consciousness, and that consciousness is trapped and will die and be wiped out utterly when I die. Next comes the home of good and evil. I didn't say that clearly. Next comes the home of good and evil. This principle suggests that good and evil, right and wrong, the things that we label as such, don't exist in the universe on their own. They are just within our minds. They're ideas that we hold and maintain and share and pass on to our kids and reinforce through our society and culture. As such, since they don't exist from some absolute sense, it's up to us to tinker with these and maintain them, to examine them periodically, use reason, and be responsible for our concepts of right and wrong. Don't be lazy about them. It's a weighty responsibility, for sure. Next comes the principle of purpose. There are 3 purpose in my life. The first is the principle I call biology, the mandate of biological systems to press on, to keep us alive, to have children and carry our genes into the next generation. 2 is the principle of, the purpose of virtue. I choose to be a virtuous human being. to pursue the well-being, the improved well-being of thinking creatures. Number 3 is whatever personal purpose I choose to take on, which for me is the sharing, the continued work of refining and sharing the Good Life Creed, which is exactly what I'm doing right now. This creed, these 7 objectives and 32 principles, are available to read about in my book, Going Alone, which is available on Amazon as well as my website, goingalone.org. If you buy it from the website, you get a signed copy, hand illustrated with a scene of Siberia on the inside covers. I had to put that scene here. Anyway, there's a chapter in here called The Good Life, where I lay out the Good Life Creed. That's my 3rd purpose in life. Again, my 3 purpose are to be a good husband and father, a virtuous human being, and to pursue the mission of sharing the Good Life Creed. Next comes the atomic principle. Everything in the universe has some particular, the coffee quite hasn't quite kicked in. The universe is made of bits and pieces, atoms and molecules. And it's good to recognize that that's the case, and that I too am bits and pieces and are soon destined to fall to pieces. Then comes the principle of nature. Everything has some particular nature, including each of us, and it's good to recognize what that is. And then the pirate ride. Free will is an illusion, a very convincing one, but nevertheless, we are simply following the not following anything really. We're being jostled around by nature, by everything that's happening around us, mostly by the inertia of all things. In the way similar to the way a leaf is blown across the ground. But there's a difference there, is in that we have some seeming motive sense. Nevertheless, the universe has far more to say about, although it's a mindless saying, about our lives than we do. I don't know if we have really any. In fact, kind of like an unfolding of consequence. Yeah. Next comes the principle of maturity, which has 2 sub-principles: wisdom and fortitude. Oh, isn't there 3? And then don't we have integrity there too? So wisdom consists of, maturity consists of the wisdom that we gain through our successes and failures, the fortitude that we develop to do better, and then the resulting integrity of a life that is lived where our actions are in alignment and correspond to our values. Next comes the social principle. We are social creatures. We need one another. The sub-principles here are diplomacy, justice. Is that where diplomacy, justice? See, I can always go to the book if I start to falter and can't remember. Let me find it. The social principles, sub-principles, so you can see they're laid out here like that. There it is right there. These social principles, sub-principles are diplomacy, justice, and conspiracy, right? Diplomacy is what we do when we work together to decide what better ends are. Justice is the aim that we seek, and conspiracy is when we link arms to pursue that better world. Next comes the principle of family. just a reminder to develop, to spend the time to develop a family of our own, to serve as a grounding and foundation and a platform in which to raise children. It's a good thing. And it also satisfies some very deep and internal needs. Next comes the principle called public speaking. And the sub-principles here are best words, prudence, eloquence, rumor, and gossip. Public speaking consists of learning how to communicate better, especially in a more public forum, by developing a good vocabulary and using that vocabulary well. Exercising prudence, where we attempt to align our utterances and our writing with our values. We also, and it's not in here, it's in the newer copy of the book, we also want to have felicity, where we align with our emotions as well. Not letting the emotions lead, but coming through. And then eloquence is what we achieve when we practice at this. And we want to avoid rumor and gossip. I think I can get the rest of the way. Then comes temperance. Here's a group of 5 principles that go together. Temperance. Life will not go well. The horror show. The feast of offal. And the risk of avoiding risk. Temperance is our self-control and discipline in all things. What we consume, how much time we spend doing any particular activity, all of it. Life will not go well is a reminder that life will be difficult. Things tend not to go just the way we expect, the pattern and the template that we put in our minds. The horror show is a further reminder that sometimes things go so bad as to constitute outright horror. Getting a stage 4 diagnosis of cancer, your dog getting run over in the street, suffering while it dies. You can just imagine. I don't need any more examples. These things are happening. Maybe Alzheimer's disease that renders someone frightened and alone amidst their own family. You can just imagine these are just horror. Life is full of this. And I need to be ready for it and prepared to deal with it. That which must be borne. We have to carry and bear the weight of these things. All the aforementioned horror show and the fact of the difficulty. And then the feast of offal is controlling our expression of our upset over the way life goes sometimes. Not spilling it out over others to relieve ourselves, but to learning to carry and bear and manage the pain. Next is the best seat in the house, a reminder to try to be all right with who I am, where I am, and what I'm doing. To not want to be anyone else, be anywhere else, or be doing anything else in particular. Next comes 2 principles that go together: distraction and agency and the great indifference. Let me take them backwards. Agency and the great indifference speak to the apparent emptiness of the universe once we get outside the scope of our human influence or all life or the influence of life, like going into a deep, deep desert. Parker, if you see this, that would be the area beyond where we hiked yesterday or this last week. That area out there by the home of faith. That's deep enough. You can begin to witness the emptiness there. And that then is distraction, is what we spend our lives doing so we don't have to see that emptiness. We distract ourselves with our work and our play and our hobbies, our rumor, the little things that upset us in life, the dramas of our life, our religion, our concepts of God. These are all distractions so we don't have to see the emptiness of the universe and then be saddled with the responsibility to figure out our own life path and meaning and values. It's hard work. Okay, next comes, I think the best seat in the house actually belongs here. I did it too soon. Now comes a series of 4 principles that go together. These would be the restless man, the path of wildness, the great life adventure, and the risk of avoiding risk. The restless man speaks to the fact that most of us in our youth and our 20s have some desire for some adventure, some unique thing in our life to make our living. And a lot of us don't do that. We just get busy with the work a day and all the responsibilities and get all tied up in all of that, and then don't actually have that experience. I call that experience a great life adventure. When we set out on what's called the path of wildness, which is the route, the off-ramp from our current safe and sane, or whatever circumstance we're in, towards a new life. So we start off as a restless man or woman, we step upon the path of wildness, and then we wind up with a great life adventure. That activity gives us something that we can carry with us all of our lives. Even through hard times, we can have the satisfaction of having had our great life adventure. And Yumiko and I are about to have another one now. We're about to go to Japan to go look at some homes. And that's going to be a great life adventure for us. Can't wait. February, next month. Exactly 1 month from now, really. Wow. The last of those 4 is the risk of avoiding risk. What if you don't do that? What if you start off in life and you want a great life adventure, but you don't give yourself a great life adventure? Well, there's a price to pay. And it comes later in life when we have throughout life actually, and then especially later in life, when we realize the moments are passing and we didn't do it. And we start to wonder what our life is for. Was it all just about this hard work and the rat race? Wasn't there anything deeper? I recommend taking that path early. Hop upon the path of wildness after university. To give yourself 5 years to just have fun. Come back at age 30, and then you can settle down to the hard work of building a family and a career and a home. You will have your great life adventure in your back pocket, ready to remember and enjoy all your life. Next comes sin and damnation. Since I don't believe in God and I don't believe in any absolute right or wrong, I don't believe that there's anything to sin against in that sense, but I do believe we can sin against our better sense of what constitutes a good life. And those basically boil down to being untrue, believing things that are untrue, or engaging in rumor or gossip. Namely, I enumerate these as falsity, credulity, faith, superstition, dogma, authority, rumor, and gossip. Those are the 8. They're just basically mostly different flavors of believing things too easily. Engaging in any of those, and we're kind of sinning against our own sense of well-being. And there's a damnation that we begin to experience in the here and now as a consequence of that. Don't worry, death will be a relief. It's not like you're going to be tormented in hell forever. You'll have to be tormented in the here and now for the brief time that you remain. But the good thing is it's not eternal. You can usually get over it if you make amends, if you make an effort to fix it. Most people are pretty forgiving. The toughest one to get forgiveness from is ourselves when we've been bad. Okay, the next one is complete oblivion. With no soul, no God, no heaven or hell, death is the end. And after we die, we won't see our loved ones again. We won't have a chance to reconcile any differences, and there won't be any final justice. But don't worry, you won't be around to know. Neither will I. Neither will any of us. A deep, deep oblivion awaits us. similar to the oblivion that we didn't know before we were born. We're going back to that, I think. Complete oblivion is the principle in question here. And the idea of what happens after death. Now, if you hold a frame of mind similar to mine, to what I do, then that gives us a strong motivating force to want to do something with this life, right? To not waste the time. Next is, why am I suddenly at a loss? What's after complete oblivion? Is it the season of philosophy? Yeah, the season of philosophy. It's a time of life that comes when we have ideas, and especially when we begin to enjoy the fruits of the efforts that we've made in life to live well. And we record those. Now, I do that through a daily journal. I write in my journal every day, usually twice a day, and I record that, and that's my season of philosophy. And if I do well, the muse speaks to me, and the words come easy. I find that change and new circumstance tend to really make that a fertile operation. Next comes the bullseye aim, striving to hit the mark but usually missing. It's to remember that that's usually the case. Like I have one thing that I wanted to do for my project that needs to be done tomorrow, but needs to be done tomorrow, but tomorrow's a holiday. So I made sure that we got as far enough that it got into the hands of somebody else, but I'm not sure that it's done. I should check in on them today. Even though it's Sunday, I will. Bullseye aim. Reminder, we're striving to hit the bullseye, but we usually miss. Sometimes we miss the target altogether, just like playing darts. In darts, we don't get upset when we miss the mark. We get happy when we hit the mark. I try to keep the same frame of mind for all things that I'm engaged with. All right, next comes the uphill climb. Working hard to endeavor to finish each day higher than the day before, in better control of my mind, my thoughts, my activities, fitter than yesterday. You know, in a retrograde sense that my body is declining. Nevertheless, I'm trying to climb back up and stay fit through every age, through every season of my life. Finishing the day stronger every day than the day before, or higher at least, with a greater perspective and view, a higher vista. It's like climbing a mountain, where somewhere along the way we'll die on the mountainside, but I want to get as high up. I don't want to dig into a hobbit hole and be stuck in one place in the mountain all my life. Maybe that's one of the reasons why Yumiko and I are always moving. Mostly it's because it's fun. We enjoy mixing things up. We carry our home in our hearts. The place, and the possessions are secondary. If not even secondary, maybe tertiary, or not at all. Hardly important at all. Next comes arena and utility. Life is an arena for the development of objectives and principles that we can use to live a better life. Nothing is enough is the next principle. This is a funny sounding principle because it doesn't really, it's developing into something different. It's becoming the home of my effort to have a discipline and self-control over my thinking and my communication, my expression. If you notice that when I'm talking now, I'm very deliberate and careful and measured in everything that I say. And likewise, the same thing is going on in my head. That's because I'm making a very conscious effort to do that. I've been doing that for roughly the last 6 months, and it's really starting to bear fruit and show, including at work, where I'm kind of unflappable now. Not always, but for the most part. And I plan to be more so in 2023. Nothing is enough is the principle where this idea is coming about. And I did put a sub-principle there, but I can't remember, and it won't be in this book. It's in a newer copy that I don't have. But the original purpose of this concept was to suggest that it's better to live without the expectation of things giving me satisfaction or comfort or peace. Nothing is enough. And in essence, this practice of self-control and discipline belongs here because I'm becoming satisfied and content and at peace with whatever circumstance is happening around me, not expecting anything to provide that other than the discipline and self-control that I'm carefully cultivating, imperfectly cultivating, remembering the bullseye aim. I like the way that's shaping up. Okay, the last principle is the principle of fun. A reminder to have a good time. And I do this by planning out the day. And no, kind of. Yeah, kind of. I do plan out my days. My work days, I plan out what I'm going to do. And when I'm done with those things, I can enjoy myself. I mean, if I'm on the clock and I'm done with those things, I still work. But I can enjoy myself by saying, Kurt, you've met your commitments for today. You can be at a little peace. I also try to remember the good times of yesterday, reflect on those, and to plan for the good times of tomorrow. To that end, Yumiko and I should be just throwing our full weight into this February adventure, including on social media, talking about what we're going to do, sharing photos and pictures and etc. I can't wait, and I'm going to do that. I'm going to start throwing myself into this thing. Make a fool of myself, no less. The principle of fun. Death is soon. My good health won't last. Capitalize on those things now. Be considerate of those who have already had their moments past, or who never had them at all. Yet, enjoy the life that we have. Enjoy the remembrance of the past and the anticipation of the future. Drink from that deep cup of pleasure, within reason. It's a difficult thing to balance the enjoyment of life with the recognition of the pain of life and the efforts to make the world better. But it's a very, very worthwhile aim. Okay, I've made it through my good life meditation. The last part of this activity is to plan for the coming day. So what I'm going to do now is I'll finish this video, I'll upload this video, I'll type my little bit out at the top, then I'll feed my dogs, walk my dogs, and when I come back I'm going to illustrate, do I have a copy of Going Alone to illustrate? I guess I'll illustrate this one and send it along. Am I ready to do that? I've got copies coming. I should illustrate it. Yeah, I'll illustrate it. And yeah. Anyway, sorry, I'm planning out loud. That should take me through the morning. Then when my wife wakes up, we'll have. Well, we shouldn't have much to have to do today at all. I'll check in. I'll send out Happy New Year greetings to people. But I really need to focus on. Let me focus on the upcoming adventure. Yumiko and I are having a great life adventure coming up. Our daughter's in fine shape. She's doing great in school, focused on her things, doing all kinds of stuff. The dogs are fine. I need to take care of those things and then plan for the adventure. Really, really dive into this thing. That's what I'm going to do. I'll also go to the beach and take a nice ocean swim. Maybe I'll do that midday and really kind of soak it up if the rain isn't coming down too much. And maybe linger more in the water. Up until now, I've pretty much just dove in and get out. Maybe today the day will be the day that I'll actually swim around in the sea a little bit. Maybe swim out a little further and paddle about with the stingrays. I'm ready for 2023. Are you? It's all right if we're not. Let's deal with the tricky bits as we can. Let's maintain self-control. Keep our focus on the goal of virtue. Enjoy the moments that we have. Exercise self-control over our mind. Give ourselves a quota of what we have to do with our work, and then enjoy the time once we've reached that quota for the day. Don't make it a scrambling rush throughout the day every day. Make it a measured endeavor towards identified ends, and then enjoy the rest of the time. Enjoy the evenings that come with a good dinner, company, maybe a little leisure. How about a beer? Enjoy that feeling that comes of having not too many, maybe one, maybe two beers at most. Just that little piece that comes, that little edge that's brought off. Walk the dogs. Enjoy the day. That pain that's coming somewhere, take care of that too. Go see a doctor. Attend to our good health. Exercise self-control. This is my resolve for the coming year. And with that, I wish you all the best. Be safe, but not too safe. And now, my life is done.